All right, this afternoon what we're doing, we've got about an hour or so that we're going to, actually we'll take what it takes, but talk primarily transparency. We're going to get into a little more detail on that. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm going to go through this, our Big Sky Search website a little bit and show you some of the tools that are available there. It's just information. It's nothing cosmic or magical or anything other than that first animation that you saw this morning, which is pretty darn cool. I do say so myself, but I'll show you some of the stuff that's there. And this is a place that you can direct people when you say, hey, this transparency thing is important. If you're sitting at Johnny's Cafe in Glasgow with the local group of guys that meet there every morning at 6 in the morning or whatever, and you're talking about transparency, you can just write on a napkin, bigskysearch.info, and this will get them going in the right direction to where they'll kind of know what the overall objectives are. We'll answer a few questions. And I'm going to hit on this fairly briefly, and then I'll go into more detail on some of the, like the get answers part is basically an FAQ page. We'll go into more detail on that. That addresses things like cost, why government instead of M.P.I. build it, privacy issues, things like that. We'll get into more detail on, so I encourage you to take a look at this. And then I'm also going to give you show you a site from North Dakota called Sunshine on Schools. We're creating an identical site in Montana. We're having some data collection issues, as you can imagine, on particularly salary information with 457 school districts or whatever it is. But I'm going to introduce you to that site during this session, and then again during the panel, for those of you who stick around for the transparency panel, we'll get into more detail on that. Sandra's going to talk about legislation in more kind of a generic sense during this session. Now, this is kind of the big picture overview of transparency initiatives. And Kurt's going to talk about some of the surveys that we did of Montana stakeholders and other people on what they want out of a transparency site. Again, the idea is to give you the information you need to pass this on to give you the to make people or to help people understand immediately what we're trying to do. It's a pretty simple concept once you understand it, but it's tough to explain sometimes, as you can tell by my rambling around the point here, more or less. So, and then we'll break up into the panels, and we have 3 panels. The transparency panel will stay here, so whoever's interested in the transparency legislation will go into more detail on the specifics. How much should it cost? How much has it cost? What are some legislation specifics from different states? More detail on who we've talked to in the state, how it works with the Sabres accounting system, things like that Kurt will address on a lot of groundwork that he's laid in the state for this thing in the last 6 months or so. We didn't just think of this yesterday. We've been working on this since about, what, May, Kurt? Something like that? April, so we've been working on it. Then the fiscal, budget and tax fiscal, they're going to one of the breakout rooms. It's the one that has the name tags Barry Paulson and Jonathan Williams and Patrick Gleason on it. I think it's the gallery room. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the gallery room, which is right by the spiral staircase. That's also where the mixer is tonight. If you want to come after this is all over with, we'll have one get together, kind of say goodbye, and then adjourn straight to the bar, basically, in the gallery room. And the environmental, property rights environmental breakout panel, led by Perk and some Montana Association of Realtors reps, are going to be down in the Bitterroot Meadowlark room, which is past the staircase and straight down the hall, kind of the middle hall where Tim Babcock's office is and all that down there. Say hi as you go by. And there's a conference room in the back there. And go to whichever one you want. Go to all of them if you want. If you want to flitter around between them, that's fine. This afternoon is for legislators and legislative staff only. I don't know if there's any staff here right now. We've had several say that they were going to try to make it. Yeah, anyway, legislators. And there's no press, so if you see press, kick them out. I don't know them all, but I told Chuck he couldn't stay. And I don't expect to see NBC back this afternoon. The only there really shouldn't be anybody in here except the presenters, the legislators, and the helpers, the M.P.I. people that are helping put this thing together. So that should be all we see. Okay, this site. Again, I'm not going to replay the animation here. I think how many of you saw the animation this morning? Oh, you're kidding. Maybe. How many did see it? Yeah, it's about half. I think, do you guys mind if I play it again? It's about 2 minutes. Just there's enough people here that haven't seen it. Here's what I'm doing with this site. I'm creating a place that people can go to get basic information on transparency, so they'll write you a letter saying, I want transparency. And this is the kind of transparency I want, okay? That's what this site is for. And this is how we get them started. Oh, I don't have any sound. Well, this ain't gonna work. Well, I don't have it plugged in even. I am becoming pretty smart on audio-visual equipment.
Real citizens legislature.
Started here.
A state lawmaker.
Yep.
All right. Before I get to the point of BigSkySearch.info, there are a couple things you should know. First, we love Montana. Fourth biggest state. Big open skies. Big mountains like you've never seen. But there's one thing we like to keep small and lean. Our government. That's why the members of our State House and Senate only meet every 20 months for 90 days' work. Now that's a real citizens legislature. A state lawmaker never really leaves the real world, where taxpayers live and work. That's just Montana's way. But taxpayers have a reason or two to be concerned. In the past 4 years, government grew 26%. 26. Now that's a lot of hard-earned Montana money taken out of the economy and into the Treasury. Here's another one. In 2008, Montanans worked 182 days for the government to pay for federal, state, and local taxes and the rising cost of regulations. July 1st was the first day we really worked for ourselves. And that's where the BigSkySearch.info project comes in, using technology to help you track every dollar the government spends. As easy as getting directions to Idaho, tickets to Mile City Bucking Horse Sale, or reserving a cabin for that weekend Yellowstone getaway. Who's on state government's payroll? What's the salary? With what kind of benefits? Who got the contracts? What company won the big jobs? And what price did we pay? Why shouldn't we know? It's our money. Is legislative spending up or down? Now we'll know. Salaries and programs, and roads and bridges, line by line, every penny. And where does all the money come from in the first place? It's just a click or two away. No long drives to the Capitol, no calls or emails to a government office. Searchable, accountable state government, when and where we want it. BigSkySearch.info, a project of Montana Policy Institute. Citizens welcome, anytime. Hey, after all, it's your money.
So that's obviously the hook. That's what gets people in. Gets them thinking about it, kind of sets the stage for what do we really want. And again, I'm going to go through a couple of pages here fairly briefly. In the panel later today, I'll go over more detail. The what is Big Sky Search? This kind of just talks about the basic concept of a Google for Government type website, but it also, the nice thing here is it gives you a couple nice examples where you can go out there. Sandra's going to talk about a few of these. She already showed you the Missouri one, but where you can go to a government-sponsored website that has transparency aspects to it. Now, no state has done this perfectly yet, in my mind. We have the opportunity potentially to do that, but you can see dollars to be spent, dollars received, property tax. Again, in the panel, we'll go through some of these sites in a little more detail to kind of show you the world of the possible, what can be done, what should be done, that sort of thing. And then there are a couple of sites down here. New York has our equivalent, a state-based free market think tank in New York, created their own website called See Through New York. And what they do is they get data dumps from the state, and they created their own website, and they populate that website with